Welcome to the party. We're all miserable.
What's up? I'm the Braun of Locked On Vikings. I put my life in Sam Darnold's hands, and he killed me.
Hey, this is Arif Hasan from the Wide Left Substack. After a devastating Vikings loss, it feels good to be home.
Luke Inman at Luke_Spinman. Yeah, I'm over it. They are who we thought they were. On to LA.
Locked On Sports Minnesota Podcasts. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. It's time for the Minnesota Football Party. It's your guys hanging out talking next level Vikings football. So join in with Arif Hasan, Locked On Vikings Luke Braun, Superior Sports Talk's Luke Inman, and Vikings insider Sam Ekstrom, plus the biggest names in Minnesota football for the Minnesota Football Party. And it starts now.
Welcome into a Misery Monday on the Minnesota Football Party, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We thank you for making us your first commiseration listen or watch of this Monday morning. For your second one, check out more Misery with Locked On Vikings and Luke Braun, the host there, and find our audio on the Locked On Vikings podcast feed. You met the whole crew. We'll be reacting to every element of Vikings-Lions, a 31-9 loss, 1 seed, dead, bye week, dead, NFC North, dead. It's all dead. It's all terrible. We'll tell you just how terrible and whether or not to overreact to this, what it means for Sam Darnold's future, and the potential playoff run on today's Minnesota Football Party. And hey, please subscribe to Locked On Sports Minnesota if you like the content. If you watched the postcast last night, we had the full reaction. Arif Hasan was not on the postcast. We give him today's first word, a 31-9 drubbing against the Detroit Lions, which was close in the third quarter. Against all odds, the Vikings were in the game in the third quarter, and the defense that had been sturdy collapsed. And the offense that had been really lackluster, really terrible, really underachieving, never found its stride. Your thoughts?
No, I think you summarized it. I think that the defense did an outstanding job for about 2.5 quarters. And I think that that's probably the most you can ask against, the top offense in the NFL. That makes sense to me. I think that it was primarily an issue of the offense after the Lions entered the red zone. 4 minutes to go in the third quarter. The Vikings offense did not have a drive or a series longer than 6 plays or longer than 3 minutes, right? There's only so much you can ask a defense to do without giving them offensive support, right? And so I think that, hey, there's all kinds of blame to go around, sure. If there are people in the building that aren't looking internally to see what they could do better the next time they play the Lions this year, then they shouldn't be on the team. But it's primarily about Sam Darnold. It's a little bit about those receivers. It's a little bit about that offensive line. Sorry.
Bless
you.
A
little bit about Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a failure in a bunch of different areas. Some people failed more importantly than others. If that's what matters to you, that's what matters, because losses suck.
If I am ranking offensive blame, I think I'm probably going Darnold, KOC, offensive line, and then pass catchers not making tough catches would be number 4. If we're assigning blame in 4 areas. Luke Inman, go ahead.
Go ahead.
The offensive line didn't play well. I just don't want to put too much on. Like, obviously he was under a lot of pressure, but like I feel like though the Vikings did not lose because of the officiating, I think that putting them on the blame ladder, whatever we want to call it, right, is appropriate, right?
At least an honorable mention, right?
Right. Yeah. But yeah, I think there's a huge gap between O'Connell and the offensive line, even though the offensive line did not play well.
I thought a lot of the pressure was coverage-induced pressure or Darnold tunnel vision induced pressure. I don't think the offensive line deserved as much heat as Chris Collinsworth insinuated. Like, look at these Lions blitzers. Just look at the
Yokels.
pressure.
Look at these
Sam Darnold's
blitzers
never been hit
unblocked
this much in his life.
Look at him beat nobody. I don't want to diminish what the Lions did. Like that, like good job. That was a
No,
very
they
good
did, yeah.
coaching job.
Oh,
but like,
props
to Glenn.
props to Aaron Glenn. Props to Amik Robertson.
Yep.
In particular,
Yeah.
outstanding game. Great job. By
I don't
Brian
think we talked the same about this game if Darnold is just like as accurate as he has been all year. Like if he is his normal level of accurate as he has been all year, which isn't perfect, but if he's like if he is at his mean, I don't think we're having any of those conversations in his.
Well, there's
I want to highlight the best comment I've seen in a long time from Macho Meat. This is the saddest I've been on January 6th in years.
A likely story, Macho Meach. I need to know where you were 4 years ago.
Well, I mean, a lot of people lost on January 6th. Macho, it seems like you were one of them.
Game time.
Game time.
Very.
All I was going to say, just real quick, Sam, I feel like we could sit here and kind of cherry pick what 2, 3, and 4 were on the blame ladder, but Sam Darnold is number one with a bullet. When he came out and started the game and missed Hawkinson on back-to-back third downs, when he was open and Tirico comes on and says, that's the first time the Vikings have punted on their first 2 drives all season. Right out the gate, I was like, okay, a lot of game left, but like, wait a minute. This isn't how this whole thing's going to go, right? And I'm not saying both throws were like easy throws, but like Luke just said, like those are throws he's made all year. Throws that, any big-time quarterback, you got to make those in your sleep when you get to these big stages late in the season. That just kind of felt like a prelude because then it was the overthrows to, JJ missed touchdown in the red zone, the back corner one, the fade one. And again, some of those, okay, hit your hands, but still, those are like 8-yard throws at the time. They should be a lot more accurate, and especially because we've seen him make those throws all year. So I think Branch hit his arm on the fade throw. Still got to make the throw, though. Still got to make the throw. I just feel like, kind of like we talked about last night on the postcast, like he just let the moment get the best of him on the road in Detroit, primetime, biggest regular season game maybe in regular season history, right? He's never played in a situation like that. Yeah, I'm sure he had some monster games at USC in college, but in the NFL, that was the biggest game he's ever played in. So, I get it. But then to come out at halftime and not see any improvement or very minimal improvement, never really looking like, slinging Sammy we were used to, that was frustrating to watch for sure.
Yeah, no answers were come up with for the Blitz. And Sam Darnold finished the season as the best passer rating quarterback against the Blitz in the NFL. So it's very uncharacteristic what happened. And that makes me think that Sam Darnold was having a bit of a mental breakdown because he is typically so good in those situations. Unless the coverage was genuinely, we'll have to watch it all back, unless the coverage was genuinely that good. And I thought the coverage actually
I don't think it was.
Early,
people are
not
I'm
early.
seeing like Brian Baldinger and like the first people that get to the tape.
Oh, dude, yeah.
The Baldy
like,
break.
there are wide
open,
open guys everywhere.
They're open.
Everywhere.
The Baldy
there are wide open.
Addison on
the
the first fourth down. Like, think
Yeah.
of the ripple effect of missing Addison. I mean, that would have tied the game. And then a couple more red zone opportunities. There's a world where you're up. If Sam plays with a little more confidence, you're up 21-10.
Yeah.
That's
why KOC wouldn't be 2 on my blame chart. Maybe he'd make the chart, but like he's not number 2 for me. I don't think so.
Yeah. Missing Jefferson back of the end zone, missing Jefferson corner of the end zone, missing Addison. And those were 2 different possessions, correct? I mean, that's 2 touchdowns right there.
Well, I remember saying to myself, gosh, I wish Ivan Pace could have just stayed on his feet right there and even bulldoze Jared Goff if you want to. Sure, if you're confident you can still get in the end zone. But at that point, sitting on the 8-yard line, I was like, I have zero confidence right now, just from what I've seen. And maybe I'm just being a pessimist. Maybe I'm just hardwired as a Vikings fan. But from what I've seen Sam Darnold throw these balls so far in the red zone, I have zero confidence. The other thing we didn't talk about last night, too, they were down 17-9. And they decided to go for that field goal, 51-yard field goal. I hated that decision even before he missed it because, 17-12, even if you make it, 51-yard field goal.
4th and 3 or 4.
51.
It was
okay.
short to medium. Yeah.
Yeah. It was
I didn't even
4th and
realize
4.
they were in range for that, so I thought they would punt. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe, I mean, they already blew all of their like 3 to 4 yard plays in things that didn't work on the goal line. So their bag might have been empty, which I think that kind of turned into my main critique from Locked On Vikings, which is like they kind of ran out of cards that like the defense about halfway through the third quarter kind of ran out of juice, and the blitzes that they were sending were totally figured out, cracked, solved. 14 play, terrible touchdown drive, 6 play, even worse touchdown drive with an explosive in it, and then an 8 play touchdown drive. Like, come on, man, that can't happen to you. And it felt like the offense, I don't know, kind of felt like they ran out of steam. They played them tough for 2.5 quarters and then didn't. It felt like the inverse of the Falcons game.
Phil, not accurate. Sam Darnold did have a touchdown to Jefferson in the second half of that first Vikings-Lions game. But yeah, did anyone take issue? So Inman, you take issue with kicking it for 51 yards.
Well, I just feel like,
4-3.
again, the mindset of like, dude, a 3-point, like it's like playing the Chiefs a couple years ago. Like, we got to score touchdowns here, and especially I get it. Like they were struggling on offense. You just want to put some points up, but going from 17-9, which is a 1-possession game, and this is I want to say middle third quarter, late third quarter, going into the fourth quarter, last minute left in the third quarter, to still a 1-possession game. I just didn't like it. Putting more pressure on your defense still, just for like your own confidence and psyche. You gotta put the ball in the end zone one time just to know you can do it, just to see it. And not to mention, Will Reichard already had that penalty. Just some things were off. He barely made that chip shot earlier, and now you're putting him in another tough spot at 51. Even though he did hit one long one, I get it, but I just didn't like it. Even before he missed, I just didn't like it.
So any issue taken with the red zone 4th down decision making? No. Not at all.
Field goals don't win you that game. You want to lose 31-15 instead? Go ahead.
Exactly.
It's the same logic as a 2-point conversion, right? Like you had 2 4th down opportunities from the 2. If you simply make one of them and you had the guys open, if you make the simple throw, you've got a touchdown. At worst, you have 1 of 2 touchdowns. 7 points is more than 6. I mean, you come out ahead there if you just make one simple throw on a 4th down. So I'm not mad about it. I'm not mad about the 4th down. I thought he made probably the right move to kick when it was like 4th and 6, at the goal line. I think that was correct. Like, I think he actually made the right 4th down decisions, with the exception of perhaps the one Luke Inman's talking about. Arif, your thoughts on that?
I mean, I wouldn't have minded if they had been more aggressive on the 2 field goals that they kicked. I'm not in the red zone, but I'm not necessarily upset about them. Maybe the first one, but certainly I don't really have an issue with them going for it when they went for it. Absolutely not. It was interesting kind of seeing the feedback from people. When you go at like 4th and goal from the 2 is just the most obvious go for it in the kind of the modern analytics era, the most obvious go for it. And people complained about that even after the Vikings got the ball back and scored off of that decision. Because like one of the reasons that you go for it deep in your opponent's territory is that you're more likely to get the ball back than they are to score. And so the risk of going for it is much smaller. And the Vikings actualized that with turnovers. In fact, I believe both of the because there's the Ivan Pace one as well, right? So the Harrison Smith one and the Ivan Pace one, and it's like, well, that's the best failure you could ask for in those situations, right? So, I don't have an issue with it. It played out kind of how the point, like how that math works out that it should play out. And the Vikings just didn't execute. There's actually very few strategic decisions. There are a couple. Kevin O'Connell continued to call for explosives against, 0 blitzes. And at some point you just got to take some easy shots. But from a tactical perspective, right? There are some issues, but it really is just about executing. I don't think that when you go back and look at how the Vikings played this game, and you go through kind of the coaching and the coaching decisions that they made, that you will find the solution in those coaching decisions. You will find things that they could do better. You do that every game, right?
Yeah.
And certainly ways
meat on
that
the bone, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the best way to put it. It is about execution. The Vikings put Sam Darnold in as good of a position as you could reasonably ask for, despite the offensive line woes, despite the receivers screwing up in, I think, somewhat significant ways. Despite all of that, you fix all of those things, which is an impossible world for all the receivers to play perfectly, for the offensive line to play perfectly, to call a perfect game as a coordinator. The Lions didn't do it either, right? You can do all of those things, and it doesn't matter if Darnold isn't executing, and he wasn't executing.
I have a great response to Taylor Jaszewski. They could have run inside the 5. So, yes, when they had 3rd and goal from the 2, giving it a try on 3rd down, I think might have been prudent. But I also have a stat to back this up, and I'm going to consider this my nerdy stat of the day.
Analytics fans rejoice. It's time to get educated.
Whoa, you're blowing my mind right now.
With the nerdy stat of the day.
In the Kevin O'Connell era, in the red zone, that's 3 full seasons of data, the Minnesota Vikings have the worst red zone yards per carry in the National Football League. 5th fewest attempts, but this is not a small number. 195 tries, 2.1 yards per carry in the red zone. That's maybe not as accurate as something like success rate. Need some help finding.
They matter so much more, Sam. They matter so much more.
If you can find that for me, Arif, you're the data guy. I would like to see that.
Unfortunately, the NFL Faster Finder tool has been down all season. So until
I'm sure it ain't good though either. I'm sure it ain't great.
I mean, we know that. The first down rate,
just
is,
the eye test. We know they stink. Yeah, they stink.
Their lowest first down rate in that span as well.
On the 3rd and 2 from the goal, if you know you're going to go for it from 4th. How about like a CJ Ham? How about like a CJ Ham plunge once in a while?
David Niemi in the comments just said CJ Ham. What's wrong with CJ Ham running from the 2-yard line? Yeah, that's a good question.
Nothing ever. Yeah.
The Vikings don't actually do fullback plunges all that often. One hopes that there's a reason, but also given how poor their success seems to be running the ball in the red zone, at that point you're just like, hey, got to try something, man, right? So I don't know, but plus I think their most successful red zone runs have been quarterback sneaks, and I bet that your search lookup did not exclude those, right, Sam?
Just rushing plays.
Yeah, so it might even be a little bit worse than it looks. So to me, it would suggest that the Vikings do need to run the ball more in the red zone, but prior to that, they have to learn how to run the ball in the red zone. Both might be relatively important. And, as a pass the ball guy, as a geekhead, a nerd, whatever, right? I love passing the ball. I think that passing the ball is much more efficient than running. And I love the Kevin O'Connell approach of throwing the ball much more often than running. But those numbers actually do point favorably towards running the ball in the low red zone, right? Like, it is a good idea to run the ball in the low red zone because success matters more in the red zone than yards do. So from my understanding anyway, so getting better at that kind of running can give you really significant benefits. I don't know.
Yeah, Jared said maybe some jet sweep status, and that worked in Lambeau. We've seen that work, or JJ, whatever it may be. I mean, you got a lot of options. KOC, very creative, but yeah, obviously that's been going on for a while. Even with the Dalvin Cook days, Alexander Madison days, it just feels like it's been a while, right? Since like peak AP, maybe. Maybe I'm going too far back now, but it feels like it's been a while since they've been efficient down in the red zone. Running.
And this team could run the ball in the Zimmer era to some extent, and then KOC took over with the same offensive line, changed the scheme, and suddenly they couldn't run block, and things got wonky. Luke Braun,
play the sound.
Play the sound.
Wait, is this the Flores news?
No.
Ooh.
You might have seen some of those Flores reports. People are starting to interview requests. But the Jets are not done looking at Vikings. They have requested to speak to Vikings senior VP player of personnel, Ryan Grigson, for their GM job.
Wow.
By all means.
Go ahead, man.
Hey, don't touch Flores, but hey, man, by all means.
Yeah. I'll see your Flores. No, you don't want this Flores.
Who
No,
did
no,
like a big profile?
shiny
Somebody wrote a big profile on him this offseason about how he's like learned and grown up, and he's like a better guy now. He's now like deeply regrets everything that happened in Indianapolis.
I'm glad he regrets his bad decisions.
So we've now got rumors that are putting Phillips Wes
it was Alec
Phillips
Lewis, yeah.
in head coaching interviews, Josh McCown in OC interviews, Brian Flores with the Jets, and he can't interview yet, correct? That would have to be next week.
Divisional round, I think.
Next
Yeah, the Lions guys are already interviewing.
They can
because
of the bye, yeah.
Because of the bye. And KOC, trade rumors. We got to talk about that too. That was unbelievable.
Oh my God.
So funny.
Jay
Holy
Glazer, have
crap.
some shame.
It was literally a hazard to my well-being. I was at the gym pumping the heavyweights.
Right.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I see
As
that
he
on a
does.
gym TV on mute, and I almost dropped the weight on my toe. I couldn't believe what I was seeing on the television. I was in some kind of fever dream. Kevin O'Connell is not getting traded, despite how many of you hate him after last night. It's not going to happen. But a very nice little tactic from his agent.
It's like very clearly meant to like up a price, to drum up a little bit of. I think what it is, it's not necessarily like a threat or anything like that. What they wanted to do was put that headline out there and watch the response to it flood in. Of all Vikings fans saying, "Oh my God, please don't do this. We love him so much." Blah blah blah. Like just a big giant sign saying how much Minnesota loves Kevin O'Connell. But as Ben
Masterful
Gessling has
work.
reported, they are going to get into extension talks after the season. This is all going to be a moot point, and by the time the draft comes around, you'll have forgotten this whole thing.
Yeah,
Good
all
job,
you got to
Jay
do
Glazer.
is watch the KOC victory in the locker room speeches and just hone in on Ziggy Wilf. He's got the biggest smile. He just sits there.
Oh, yeah.
And he's got the biggest.
These guys aren't
with that
going anywhere
scarf,
till they start.
with that $5 scarf. He's got that, and just the biggest smile ever. He ain't going anywhere. He ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, I'll say you need at least 2 seasons below 500 before we even think about a different guy at head coach.
Easily. More nerdy stats when we come back. Plus, was the defense actually deserving of praise in this game? That after this on the Minnesota Football Party. New year, new deal at FanDuel Sportsbook app, and FanDuel.com. The NFL playoffs are just better with FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed. Bet 5, get 200, win or lose. It's that simple. FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets when you have that hunch. Same-game parlays can be a lot of fun. Touchdown scorer parlays, so much more. And there's so many options that they give you for these playoff games. Check out the website or the app and check out the betting lines for your team and around the league. That Vikings line against the Rams, I got a feeling that's gonna move a little bit the Rams' way after last night's result. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. Bet 5, get 200 in bonus bets at FanDuel.com. Make the playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. I got one more nerdy stat to share, and then we'll go around the circle. So the Vikings were +2 in the take-give. They lost by 22. Those benchmarks, if you include committing 0 turnovers, being a +2 or better, losing by 22 or more, guess how many times that's happened in NFL history?
No times. I don't know.
It's more than no times.
Less than
1
10
times.
6 times ever in modern NFL history. 6.
Yeah, you tell me going into the game we win that turnover battle 2-0. Yeah, I'm feeling great. I'm feeling great. Yeah.
Yeah.
What you get when a quarterback plays bad.
Luke, Inman, exact same reaction. When Pace didn't get in, I thought they're not going to score. And then when Akers didn't get in on the 58-yard run,
It's like, all right, turnover.
not going to score.
It was wild, man. It was wild. Yeah, those first couple drives. Again, I go back to even just the missed throws on Hawkinson on the first back-to-back third downs. And then, the red zone stuff, it was nasty, man. You know, you brought up
Him on that 3rd and 18, man. Oh, that would have been so good.
He was right there.
Yep.
I wonder if Hawkinson had a little bit of gator arms. Maybe you heard Kirby Joseph stomping his way. I don't
Come
know.
on.
I'm kidding.
No, he was wide open.
No, he was white.
Yeah. Even
Sam-
if you want to go there, which I do not, it wouldn't have come up there. There was nobody around.
No. Sam, you brought up, did you say that Sam Darnold was the best quarterback versus the Blitz this year?
Passer rating, yes. 12
Passer rating.
touchdowns, no picks.
Pass rating and yards per attempt.
Okay,
So if you exclude
here's a
that,
nerdy stat I would love to know, and I don't have this, is I would love to see the Blitz like splits, like versus 5-man pressure,
Versus
six,
types of
because
blitz,
I feel like Aaron Glenn had a lot of 0 blitzes last night, and Darnold just absolutely crumbled. So it was just interesting. Maybe it was just a 1-game sample type of thing. Obviously, again, to your point, he has been great versus the blitz, but does he thrive against 5-man blitzes, 6-man what?
Someone in the comments, and this is a bit ago, so I'm sorry, and I also cannot verify if this is accurate. So, someone in the comments said that Glenn sent 14 0 blitzes. I don't know if they picked a number to suggest us. Yeah, I don't know if that was a cited piece of data. I don't know if they were like, it felt like 14, but certainly there were quite a number of them.
Ooh, okay. Well, this isn't going to tell you the answer to that, but grades are available, which means blitz data is available. Sam Darnold blitzed 47% of the time, 1 turnover-worthy play, 1 sack. Time to throw 2.88. I honestly, none of that really tells the story. 6.4 yards per attempt. Honestly, not as bad as I thought.
How many pressures? Because it felt like, especially in the second half, just when he got rattled, all he did was just get. And granted, he did escape some pressure in the pocket and did a really good job. It felt like avoiding some sacks. Granted, his 1 sack was like an 18-yard loss. He's got to throw that ball away. But it felt like once that clock started going off and kind of rushing in his head, he kept rolling out constantly, and nobody was open. I mean, usually against a blitz, if you can escape that pressure from the pocket, either you see quarterbacks in this league be able to scamper for a first down, or somebody's open downfield, and that was kind of frustrating as well to watch over and over and over again.
Yeah, the numbers would indicate that he was not good against the blitz, but he was actually
much better against the blitz than when he wasn't blitzed.
They applied pressure without blitzing, and when he was under pressure, he was really bad. 4 of 18 in the game. He held up a little better actually when blitzed. So that's
6.4 yards per attempt when blitzed, 2.0 when not blitzed. What's interesting is that Jared Goff, who has been historically very good against the blitz and historically very good against the Vikings blitz, which I think are 2 important distinctions, because as we've discussed before, quarterbacks that are good against the blitz are often bad against the Vikings blitzes. Holy crap, what a stat, Macho Meach. Cam Robinson allowed 9 pressures last night. Brandel had 8, according to PFF. But the Vikings sent blitzes on 68.6% of Jared Goff dropbacks, according to PFF. Now, mind you, he did average a little bit more in terms of yards per attempt against Vikings blitzes than against non-blitzes, 6.6 yards per attempt, but at a lower passer rating because both interceptions came on blitzes. So, good for the Vikings. Like, one of them occurs because directly because of pressure. I believe that's the Harrison Smith one. And one of them occurs because one of the extra rushers that you sent tipped the ball up. That's the Josh Patel 7 pace one. So I think that this validates, and this can get us into one of our other topics if we wanted to, but I think this validates the Vikings approach. And I don't know that it's important that it does. And I'll talk about that in a second. But I think that the Vikings blitzing a lot is really kind of the only way they could have produced opportunities for them to win. And then the reason I don't think they even need validation for that approach, like if Jared Goff had just been cleanly better against the blitz than against the not blitz, right? The Vikings cannot play their football if they don't blitz about at least half the time, because the entire defense is predicated on the ability to creatively suggest that they're sending extra pressure. And you have to make good on that.
You can't have one without the other, right?
Yeah, and so it's just the nature of it's like asking the 2011 Bears not to go into Tampa 2. It's just not going to happen, man.
Yeah.
So
the Vikings base pass rush is a 5-man rush. Like, you have to think about that as like that's their normal thing, and it gets charted and counted as a blitz. But in their scheme, they cover with 6, they rush with 5. It's just how they do business. It's not like Flores is making an aggressive play call over and over and over again.
That's a great comment, Miranono.
Arif, you said to be vulnerable and stop guarding. I didn't know you were talking to the offensive line.
Got him.
Got him.
I have a nerdy stat. It's been 835 days since the Vikings beat the Lions.
Whoo, boy.
It's gonna go over 1,000.
Say that again.
835 days today. since the Vikings beat the Lions.
And that game they should have lost too. That was the KJ Osborne game.
It was a KJ Osborne game.
Where Campbell,
it was a close
honestly, think about that game. Was that the game where Campbell realized he had to be a madman? Because he made that conservative decision to kick at the end, missed the kick. Was that the turning point? Where Campbell
I think the turning point was before that. I think it was the Vikings-Lions game right before it. That was 2021 in Ford Field, losing to the 0-10-1 Lions. And Dan Campbell going for everything and all that, like playing like a total madman with nothing to lose.
I think the turning point is when they handed him the keys to the organization and he used that to open the door of the facility. That's when he became a madman.
Yeah. I don't know, man. 5 in a row. 5 in a row against the Lions. The big brother, little brother. I mean, you can't argue against that, man.
No, that's
they
exactly
own us.
Yeah, that you can't. Yeah. Until you prove them wrong, that's exactly the case. Minority stat is somewhat similar, not really. So I grabbed this from footballperspective.com. Chase Stewart does excellent work over there. It's data up to the 2020 season, and then I manually added in 21, 22, 23. But for teams that are 0-2 in the regular season and then meet that opponent again in the playoffs since 1982, probably since 1980, honestly. Mm-hmm. Teams that are 0-2 and then meet that team again in the playoffs, they're 300, which actually feels better than I think a lot of fan bases would imagine that they would be. And the ones that they win have fairly tight spreads. They were 3-point underdogs, 6-point underdogs, 7-point underdogs. And I imagine, despite the result of this game, that when the Vikings and the Lions potentially meet again in the playoffs, that it'll be a relatively tight spread, putting them in a much better position than a lot of these 0-3 teams that you've got. Also, if you narrow down to just since the year 2000, the record remains the same. It's still 300 for teams that are 0-2 facing that same opponent again in the playoffs. So, Vikings, you'll probably lose against the Lions, but the probably is a lot smaller than you might have thought.
The divisional round rematch happens if the Eagles and Bucks win and the Vikings win next weekend. NFC Championship rematch would happen potentially if the Vikings obviously win 2 games, but then they would need a lower seed.
Yeah, the Packers
lower seed to win,
or a 6 seed.
Yeah, or the Commanders.
Yeah,
it would be so much fun if the Packers won and then the Vikings won their way to, and the Lions' path to the Super Bowl was a three match against the Packers. Then the Vikings.
I would 100% agree. Like it's one of those rare cases.
It's been the NFC North here.
It's been the NFC North all year.
It's not your time.
For narrative reasons, it feels like the Packers should win, and I hate saying the Packers should win, right? But for narrative reasons, that works really well.
Yeah.
Why did the Rams?
I might root a little for the Packers
just
because of how funny
just
that
to
would
rest.
Yeah, quick discussion on that, Inman. All the coaches were weird about it. Like the Rams sat guys, they could have been the 3 or the 4. And the punishment, if they had played the Lions as the 4, the Vikings are tough enough of a punishment.
Yeah.
If that's the Lions too, I mean, the Lions are probably a better team.
Or is it just all weird. Like, Dan Campbell said, hey, KFCC in 2 weeks, like we talked about last night. Is it all just scripted anyways?
Of course it's scripted. You got
it's scripted, yeah.
No,
I don't think teams care that much about, like, I don't think they're trying to, like, determine a matchup very much. I think teams generally have enough respect for each other, like, across each other, that the difference between 6th and 7th and 7th and 5th and like that doesn't, but getting an extra home game, winning the division, getting a bye, that stuff matters. But the difference between the 3rd seed and the 4th seed just didn't matter to them.
Yeah.
We got to play who we got to play.
Resting
you don't eat cupcake matchups in the playoffs. Everyone's good. Oh, I'm going to have to play someone good? Yeah, it's the playoffs. So, like, whatever.
Yeah, I think that's how they look at it. And I'll say that from, like, if they ran the numbers in their head, I'm not saying they did. I think the decision would be something like the probability or risk that we sustain a key injury is going to be more damaging to our chances of winning in the playoffs than the specific opponent will face between the difference in the 3rd and the 4th seed, right? Like, I think that is probably the way that they think about it. But you also got to remember the Rams rest their players more than perhaps any other team in the league, just generally, right? They don't play any starters in the preseason ever, right? I shouldn't say ever. They're obviously 90-man roster. You got to play some starters at some point. But, like, you get my point here is that if there is a notion that a guy isn't competing for a job, that he has won the starting position, he's not playing in the preseason. This is the flip side of that. It is vitally important for the Rams, especially given how injury prone their stars are, right? Add that into the equation, right? Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, Matt Stafford. Given that, it is vitally important for them to maintain their health beyond the difference between a 3rd and 4th seed. So I'm not shocked. I think that maybe they're underestimating that difference, but I don't want to like press on it because I could very easily be wrong about that.
Yeah. And the Packers lost Christian Watson in that game. It feels like that was a serious injury, and they could have lost Jordan Love. I think he's all right. I haven't heard a report on that, but they did lose him for a moment too, as they dropped to the 7.
They say he'll get feeling back in his hand, which that's a good sentence to hear.
That would have been a hilarious Bears choke if the Bears had lost that game, because they were in like run the clock out mode and threw a classic Bears bubble screen that went wrong. What, DJ Moore fumbled? They should have lost. That would have been a great Bears loss.
That was outstanding.
He's not staying in that building, right? Like DJ Moore's getting
the guy
dumped
who
for a
walked off
5th round
the
pick.
field mid play. Yeah, that guy's definitely
no shot, right? Like he's going to.
And Keenan
He
Allen
just
with
feels
an
like a
interception thrown. That was good too. That was very good. Question
That's a great stupid play in week 18. Did you see Devontae Adams get absolutely murdered?
Oh, just crushed.
Yeah, what in God's name were they trying
on
to do?
that trick
I don't know.
play?
Just empty the clip when you're eliminated. Like
Cue
whatever.
the
I think that's it. It's like
music.
we had all of these trick plays drawn up. That's fine. Just do it.
They also they threw one to Rodgers. They forced one downfield to Rodgers, like 30 yards when Rodgers was double covered on a pass back. Trying to get
That's
him
hilarious. Wow.
walk off into the sunset with a TD catch. Before I do want to pivot and do a little Rams talk, but first, do you give the Vikings defense flowers for the first 2.5? They give up 31 in both matchups this year, and in the first matchup, they give up 4 consecutive touchdown drives. In the second matchup, they give up 3 consecutive touchdown drives. Does it feel different this time? Do you feel like this was a better defensive performance that is worth celebrating to some extent?
Games are 60
Celebrating's
minutes long.
a hard word for me.
I can't do it.
But
Games are 60 minutes long. If we're gonna do that, then the Packers technically beat us twice, and it's like moral victory. Like I can't do this, man.
But
31
want
twice.
say,
The 2 highest point totals allowed were the Lions and then the Lions, and the only other team to get over 30 was the Rams, who you got to play
Because
against.
of a safety. Yeah.
This was one of in total. This is one of the 5 worst games that Goff has played all year in EPA per play, right? So in that sense, the Vikings did a better job than you would expect. In terms of Lions EPA per play, this is the 2nd worst or 3rd worst that they've had all season. So the Vikings defense played the Lions better than almost any other team did this year, and certainly after the Lions began really, really turning it on in the second half of the season offensively. So, yeah, the defense played well, but I'm not going to celebrate, what they did, because I think that's like another level of I think the defense did enough for the offense to take it home, then the offense didn't do that, right? Again, blame ladder, offense at the top.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. I agree with you, Arif. Yeah.
News?
You're just because you were just talking about it. Christian Watson is believed to have torn his ACL and suffered additional damage. That just came out from
That
Andrew
cannot
Rappaport.
stay healthy, man.
Boy, how about that trade? How about that Vikes Packers?
All right,
trade?
Luke. Okay,
relax.
Too soon?
Well,
we can't do this with injury players, man.
Yeah, as somebody who hates NDSU and deeply dislikes the Packers, I
mean, he is bad. Christian Watson is bad.
Forget about the injury. He's still bad. And I watched a Cowboy game, and Andrew Booth made a tackle. I said, what?
Like, we can all see that he's wide receiver 4 on that team, and that Jordan Love doesn't trust him. Like, we know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wicks, Dobbs,
I never
Reed.
thought I'd call someone a big play merchant, but if there ever was one,
Yep.
Yeah. No, just congratulations on your 2nd round Khalif Raymond. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quickly to put a bow on
Which
this.
I thought Jameson Williams would be a 1st round Khalif Raymond. This guy's good. I don't like that.
Well,
You're midway through the 3rd quarter last night. It's 2nd and 19 for Detroit. It's 10-9, right? Like, the game still could have gone either way at that point. 2nd and 19, you let Detroit convert, and from that point on, lights out. The 4th and 2, where obviously Campbell's going to go for that. Goff faces a free rusher and hits Gibbs. Arguably, that was the first of 2 or 3 knockout blows. But your defense got no support. What was the time of possession last night, by the way? Was it like 36-24? I haven't even looked.
Fake stat.
36-24. Yeah.
Oh, total
exactly.
guess. Nailed it. Yeah, defense
That's
wore down.
huge.
Defense got out physical late, and I think the Lions punished them. I really do. I think that there was
if you don't have an offensive series more than 6 plays long,
right? There is. I mean,
technically the
game
final
flow,
one was 7 plays, but I don't care about that.
Wait, the first one was like a 9-play drive.
Right after the Lions enter the red zone.
Oh, we're talking second half.
Yeah.
You're saying
After
the
Lions
Vikings,
enter the red zone.
the Vikings not keeping the ball. Is that what you're saying, Arif?
Right. Yeah.
No.
So after the Lions begin
to
begin to turn on, right? So they enter the red zone, 4 minutes left in the third quarter. The Vikings offense does not have a single drive longer than 3 minutes or more than 6 plays long until the Lions have scored 31 points, right? Like it is, again, the defense did not, they were not like painting glorious scenes of battle, right? In those moments, right? They were not, but the Vikings offense was just not giving them a chance. Like, you got to these things are kind of going to happen. Again, this is the 3rd worst EPA per play that the Lions have had all season. This is the 5th worst EPA per play that Jared Goff has had all season. Would that we all could have the Houston Texans game where he threw 5 picks, right? But, and so the defense to me did enough, and the offense could have helped that defense out by reducing the number of drives in that game, by sustaining at least 1 drive in the middle of that touchdown run, right?
You got to play complementary football.
I don't know. I don't know if I can go there. The first half, the offense, like the Vikings didn't play 85 plays in, like, they've had I remember the Arizona game, the defense had to be out there for like 90 plays. I don't get this, like, oh, they got tired. They got tired and out physicaled by a more physical team. It feels a little bit like we can give Detroit their flowers for being a more physical team, but that doesn't make it any less of an L to me. And it's not like this was a super inordinate and imbalanced first half where the defense was out there all game and they were super tired. The longest they were out there were those touchdown drives because they couldn't get off of the field. And I think the offense fell apart simultaneously, but I don't think that we can blame the defense falling apart on the offense simultaneously falling apart. Both units failed and need to reconcile with that.
Would anyone care to imitate the sound they made when Andrew Van Ginkel dropped a touchdown?
I can't right now.
I missed it. That I was writing a note and looked up, and then I heard the announcer and I was like, "What happened?" And then I saw the replay. Oh no!
It was I think for me it was a very characteristic one. It was like a "God damn it" kind of very Arif kind of moment.
I may have leapt forward off the couch and mid leap realized that it was dropped, and then turned the leap into sort of like a spiraling fall onto the ground. And
a classic, actually.
Just laid there for a minute, because you knew that was it, right? They were at that point, they were in scoring range. They were going to score.
Right.
You did something like that, and you to come back from
potential 14-point swing. Yeah.
Swing. That's early.
Yeah, I'm too much of a professional, Sam. As soon as that happened, I yelled, "God damn it," and then I went back to writing. I just
professional,
blank faced.
Yeah. God damn it! All right, let's talk about some Greek mythology.
And we're not supposed to say those words on this show either. But Luke Braun was a little blue last night on the postcast, and
was he?
Yeah. Apparently, our Patriots host was a little blue yesterday as well when they blew the number 1 pick. So we've got
Titans number 1 pick.
Wow. So when quick
we
pause.
Can't say GD on the show though.
No, not supposed to. Not supposed to.
That's
I've
been following that rule.
Early thought. We're gonna have a lot of shows to preview the Rams because it's a Monday night game. Early thoughts on the Rams next Minnesota Football Party. We are brought to you today by Rocket Money. New year, chance to lasso in your finances. Make sure you're not double paying for subscriptions. My problem is the streaming services, the streaming and the online sports writing websites. That stuff adds up, and it's hard to track it all down. The subscription tracker is the best. Helps you cancel services you're not using, and you can save a ton. Here's some of the numbers to prove it. Rocket Money has over 5 million users, saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Lower your bills, grow your savings, bring everything together in one place with Rocket Money. Cancel those unwanted subscriptions and reach your 2025 financial goals faster with Rocket Money. RocketMoney.com/lockedon is the website to visit today. RocketMoney.com/lockedon. RocketMoney.com/lockedon. Hammer subscribe here at Locked On Sports Minnesota, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and check out our full lineup. Ron Johnson will react to the game tomorrow, start previewing the Rams. We'll have the Minnesota Football Party on Thursday, and we've recently been doing bonus episodes on Wednesday with Ron and our Care 11 anchors, Reggie Wilson and Julia Daniels. Find it all on the Locked On Vikings audio feed. Rams mailed it in yesterday, as we discussed, lost, fell to the 4 seed. The 3 previous weeks could not have been more underwhelming. And if it wasn't Stafford and McVay and Kupp and Nakua, I would say we're getting them at the perfect time. In the last 3 games, Stafford 30th in yards per attempt, 2nd in turnover-worthy plays. Oddly, hasn't taken a single sack. So kind of a weird anomaly there.
Just like he didn't versus us back in week 8.
Yep, well protected, getting the ball out, not score. They have 2 touchdowns in 3 weeks, sans yesterday. Luke Braun, you will be at the game, correct? You have tickets already?
That is correct.
Well done. Well done. Going solo, going with your gal.
Does that mean I'm postcasting? Is that what's happening?
Very well could.
No, I'll try to. We'll see. We kind of have to play it by ear with postcast wise, but Sam, I'll be going with my wife and my dad and my stepmom. You see me say
that
hi.
should be a lot of fun.
Group out.
Yeah.
Well, I hope the 3 of them are safe.
I fully expect a sign that says game time.
It'll say, well, and I'll print out a big Minnesota Football Party logo, and
there you go. Yeah,
or we'll make
and
like
subscribe. Yeah,
big, but like
a
it's
QR code. Give me a QR code.
Yeah, with a QR code. At the last game, if you watch the YouTube short that I did post game on the last one, it's still on the Locked On Vikings YouTube page. I was accosted by a Rams fan after the final moments of that game. Well, I was like
when you were walking
face
out?
Mask.
I did it in the stadium.
It was like right after. No, it was in the stadium. It was in the stadium. It was fantastic.
Outstanding. Also, speaking of face masks, good Lord. Anyway, that's enough of that.
Like, good God, can we call? Like, how many times does this have to happen this year? Am I just like really oversensitive to it because of what happened in the Rams game, or is this a ridiculous year?
So no, it's a ridiculous year.
We got the Seattle one.
And
then
we
finally got one, and it was like, oh my God. But
the
huge.
Vikings still have the best plus minus in penalties this year as well.
Despite not getting those
despite
PIs
not getting
game,
7 different face mask calls. Yeah.
That is like it's I think a real consideration is what ref crew do you get and how tight do they call it? Because the tighter ref crews advantage the Vikings a lot because everyone wants to play Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson really physical. So the crews that are going to call illegal contact and defensive holding and PI tighter are going to advantage the Vikings.
One of those crews, and I think that
they called it loose today. This game, and like I don't think they were particularly inconsistent. I think they just kind of let them play a little bit, and that just isn't advantageous to the Vikings.
And in the end, we did get, 3 defensive holdings or illegal contacts?
There were some egregious ones.
The Hawkinson one was close, but probably should have been called.
Yeah.
I don't
got
know
there a little early. I don't blame them for missing that one. It looked worse in slow motion than it did in fast motion.
I'm actually a little bit more upset with the commentary not mentioning it at all than I am about the refs not catching it, actually. Like, that is a really difficult one to call. I had a Lions fan tell me that they thought the ball was tipped at the line of scrimmage, which for people who don't know means that cannot be pass interference, which is fine, but I would like the commentary to discuss it.
Right.
Like, I just, you know...
Yeah, I don't know if they were really holding on every play or just daring the refs to throw a flag every play because they knew they wouldn't or what. But yeah, props to Aaron Glenn. Good job.
Yeah.
So what's the level of concern that Stafford turns into playoff Stafford next week?
Relatively
I'm expecting the best from
high-ish.
everybody.
Yeah, so like the Vikings are on paper a better team. They are slightly better offensively when you exclude the game where they sat all the starters. They are significantly better defensively, and on paper that's nice, but we know kind of how teams have best beat the Vikings blitz. It's not with screens or slants or even deep shots, right? The Packers tried that. It's these intermediate over the middle,
Yep.
Find the vacated blitzer, run a dig over him kind of stuff, right? And, Luke wrote about this with Dagger as one of the concepts that kind of exploits this particular hole. But this is just kind of just generally speaking, with or without that specific route concept, that a problem for the way the Vikings deal with those blitzes. And the Rams are one of the teams that responds to this particular type of blitz package with that approach. It's why the Vikings lost. So they need an answer to that. So on paper, I shouldn't say these are also on paper. I should say at a 10,000 foot level, the Vikings are a much better team. But I am definitely concerned because the Rams can be explosive. Stafford can be explosive. Nakua and Cooper have been, on and off healthy all year, complicating the math for, these offensive numbers anyway, right? But they run the kinds of routes that really disadvantage the Vikings defensively. And I'm concerned for sure.
Stafford has only 5 deep attempts in his last 3 games. I don't know what
I got to do a deep dive on these last 3. But outside of having Cooper Kupp on my fantasy playoff team, I don't know why the Rams, I got to do a deep dive on these last 3 or 4 games because, there was the Thursday night game, short week in San Francisco. It's pouring rain out. I think they won that 12-6. Terrible game. Outside the other 2, I don't know why they've struggled to put up points all of a sudden. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I mean, Nakua's been unbelievable.
Nakua's been unbelievable. Cooper Kupp is actually, these last 3 or 4 games, has been pretty quiet. Kyron Williams does Kyron Williams things, and Stafford just is not taking sacks, to your point, Sam, just like he did against the Vikings. We talked about it last night, though, on the podcast.
I think these are probably related things, though, right? He's not taking sacks, and they're not throwing the deep ball. Those feel like...
Absolutely.
Those are probably related.
That kind of feels like exactly what Flores would want. That's what he wants when he blitzes all the time. Is please get the ball out in 1.5 seconds and run a million perimeter screens and become the Bears.
I think we touched on it last night too. No Blake Cashman in the last meeting, and we all know the splits and seeing there was just so many communication
Blake Cashman
errors.
is no longer undefeated.
No, that's true.
You got that.
That's true. That's true. But 9 penalties. That was one of the most penaltied games that the Vikings had all season. A lot of communication issues you could see pre-snap. I think Cashman does fix a lot of the pre-snap with the green dot stuff for sure, the communication stuff.
The coverage was messed up, but the other thing is that the Vikings went through that whole week not expecting to see Puka Nacua. And then he was kind of a surprise that he was active.
Yeah.
So I think they planned for the Rams to have kind of one main guy in Cooper Kupp, and then they had 2, and I don't know if they were mentally ready for that, and maybe you'll have a little bit more clarity going into this one.
Yeah, also, knock on wood.
There's no world where we don't get the best from the Rams. It's the playoffs. You're gonna expect the best from everybody. If you get if you get lucky and you get a bad Stafford game, then congratulations. But I don't think anybody's gonna be.
Yeah, McVay and Stafford playoff time in their building. Yeah, there's no gimmies for sure. Knock on wood. Hopefully, you don't lose your second best offensive player at halftime either, your left tackle as well, because that had a trickle effect as well. Putting in who was it at left tackle? Obviously, Cam Robinson wasn't here. Yeah, it was Quest. Was it Quest?
Yeah,
it was. Yeah,
that had a trickle effect as well in that second half.
Braun, you've been to a handful of these games. What's the split fan wise usually for Vikings Rams?
It's Rams, it's 50-50. When it's Chargers, it's probably 75%. Vikings.
So I probably knock that down a peg since a lot of folks already made the LA trip and it's short notice. I'm guessing it won't be 50-50, but
I wonder how many of them made a trip and how many of them live, because nobody in LA is from LA.
They're just
west. Everybody came from somewhere.
Yeah.
So
Transient city.
Yeah, so like there's a very active Vikings bar in Sherman Oaks. There are a lot of Vikings fans around LA, so I still think there's going to be a decent presence. Maybe they don't have to buy $2 million worth of tickets to go send their fans to the worst game of the year.
It'd be funny though. You can't do it now after the loss, right? That was a great
it was
gimmick.
funny
You
the first
kinda have
time.
to-
It would be a lot funnier the second time.
It would be so much funnier. The Lions were like, hey, you can't do that. And the league office is like, I don't see why not.
Yeah, they can. And also, it's like, oh, we want to show respect to our season ticket holders. Well, the players didn't. Damn.
Hey, marketing department did their job. Props to them. Good job, sales.
We have results from our 2024 gambling contest. It came down to the final week. I'll if you don't know the results, I'll build the drama here. Let me build some drama. So we had three competitors that were vying to potentially come in last. Person who comes in last has to solo host our day 3 draft coverage with some shenanigans thrown in. Luke Inman was free and clear. He's our champion. He went 1-1 this week, lost on the Vikings 1-6 point win.
Finally.
Bengals, he did get a nice cover by half a point, so he lost $23.
That was
Ends
crazy.
with
Yeah.
$2,901.36.
22-14 this year. Am I professional? I'm like a professional.
Tripled your
handicapper
money.
now, guys.
Yeah, no.
You're a sharp.
Yeah, you could start claiming your losses on tax returns because you're a pro
Yeah,
gambler.
no, I got to get an accountant. I got to get a tax guy. You can write that off.
You can write that off. Yeah, write off your wins here.
Just write it off.
It came down to this. I bet the minimums, and therefore that took my bets out of the equation. My bets didn't matter. It came down to Luke Braun betting max on Sam Darnold, 275-plus yards, and Arif Hasan taking TJ Hawkinson 60-plus yards. Braun's bet was 3 times the size of Arif's bet, and therefore, because both lost, Luke Braun, you are our loser with negative $1,146.99. You are well in the hole with a
Real
season
money.
record. And
Yep, I owe that now.
Real
it
money.
probably is fitting.
You know
that-
our Venmos, so
Yep.
just
Yeah.
I put my life in Sam Darnold's hands. He put the gun to my face and he pulled the trigger. I have no regrets.
yeah.
A
Stare down,
second
face the terror.
consecutive losing year for Braun, 14-22 your overall record. Are you doing okay?
I've never been good at spreads. I was
Well, yeah, we
the
know
favorite to be here, and the favorite outcome happened.
Favorite in a couple of ways, yeah, for sure.
I come in second in money, but third in record. Arif Hasan finished above 500, 18-17-1.
Yeah, Sam, you hit it. Like we said at the beginning, all comes down to the big bets. You hit that big bet. So even though
Yep.
you didn't quite hit 500,
Yeah,
Sam
you hit a
hit
big bet.
0 and pulled out of it. That was heroic.
That was
Yeah,
huge. And that was
yeah,
the
Luke
Thursday
tried the
night
same thing
Chargers
and it
game,
didn't
right?
work. It's just
Thursday night
you
Chargers
hit.
game.
Yep, Sam
A
hit his
Thursday
max. I
night
missed my
game.
max.
And the
Yeah,
Chargers of all teams, too.
I just wanted just a quick shout out to me for my excellent strategy here, which was
True.
because I got to pick last. The only outcome where I would end up in the draft day seat is one where TJ Hawkinson got 55 yards or so, and while Sam Darnold got over 275. Like
Right.
it
No, you played
required
that
a
well.
very specific set
A
of
small little window.
yeah. So
Mhm.
picking last in these in the final week, I highly recommend it.
You unintentionally found yourself in the catbird seat, and I'm not sure you even meant to do what you did.
So in the group chat, I had realized what I did, but I'm pretty confident that when we were gaming it out on air on last
Yeah,
week,
you were trying to do
that
something.
I was doing it on purpose. I had just forgotten what I had done, and so by the time we get to the group chat, I'm like, oh wait, no, I'm good. It's cool, and I got an emotional hedge because using our sponsor Prize Picks, I did get Sam Darnold 275 plus. With an Addison bonus in there too. I also had Jaden Daniels, but because he wasn't in there in the second half, I got rebooted. Thank you, Prize Picks.
Oh, that's the best.
Didn't matter because Sam Darnold didn't hit, but still.
Right. Love those reboots, though. Guy gets hurt. Love that. I mean, that's huge.
I hope it wasn't a promotional like Addison half a yard. Because
No, Jesus, yeah.
that would not have. That would not have.
No, I hit my promotional because I had a free ticket, and I just put it on like a Derrick Henry over plus Geno Smith under. Excellent work.
Geno Smith made $6 million yesterday. Did I see that right?
That's crazy. I made 75.
It's like the same thing.
Okay, real quickly, just around the league, and then we're out of here. We got a lot of shows to preview the Rams. We got Thursday, we got Monday, the bonus Wednesday show. Plus, on Thursday, I think we will review the season predictions and see who won that.
We're
always
bad.
one of the best shows of the year.
I bet we sucked at this again.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Around the league though. So Mike Evans getting his 1,000th yard on
Beautiful, gorgeous.
Okay,
Such a great moment.
Okay, you guys liked it.
I nearly cried. Like honestly,
if I were a Saints DB, I'm selling.
right
I'm 100% taking a dive there. I'm getting him his
on that
incentive.
final one
Strahan.
for
Yeah.
on that last one, absolutely. Oh my god, I'm taking a dive. So my
Yeah,
dude can get.
if I'm a
And
Saints fan,
to
what do I care
take to
about
take cap
Jerry
space away from the rival.
Right.
By the way, that's strategic.
That's an interesting angle.
I'm sure they were thinking about that.
Mike
Guy's
Evans
not going to
has,
even be.
That's
on
what you
got
got to tell the
next
coach
year.
when he yells at you about it. Like, I was just thinking about the cap space, coach.
It's 4th and 12, Megan.
If I'm Jerry Rice,
That's
I'm
good.
looking. I'm calling fraud on this streak. That's 2 times
Oh,
now.
like Jerry Rice has never had a cheap yard here. That come on.
Jerry Rice was over 1,200 yards in like almost all of his seasons, so I don't think he had too many
I don't
cheap
care.
ones. Mike Evans is at least 2 fraudulent 1,000-yard campaigns now because of fourth quarter shenanigans and meaningless games.
It's not fraudulent. They got to stop him. They got to stop him. They didn't stop him.
Clip that.
But you just suggested that they should intentionally not stop them. So
No, Luke
I don't know. I don't know about that.
Well, for
Yeah,
the
no, I'm
cap,
suggesting
for
that,
the cap.
Okay, so you guys liked it.
It was beautiful. Screw you, Sam.
Hey, that's fine.
Hey, you know what's
other.
fine?
I mean,
I don't think that this is like that situation where Joe Klecko like confronts Brett Favre for taking the dive.
right.
Because I think a single season record is
You hurt me, Brett.
Mark Gastineau?
Yeah,
You
sorry,
hurt
Mark
me,
Gastineau.
Brett.
Yeah.
You hurt
Sorry,
me, Brett.
You hurt me, Brett.
You hurt me, Brett.
Yeah,
Sorry,
get in
different
line, Mark.
New York Stock Exchange.
Jerry
Yeah.
Rice shows up at like a autograph session and confronts
Baker
Mike
Mayfield.
Evans.
Confronting Baker Mayfield
Yeah.
would be way
Like Paulson and Debo
he
or
would
whoever was
confront
there.
you would confront the DB.
Confront Paulson
Yeah.
and Debo. Hey man, why'd you give him the final 9 yards? You hurt me, man. Meanwhile, he's got like 17,000 yard season.
I want to see it. What would happen? Like, what if he gets 4 yards? Do they run hurry up to run another play?
Yes.
I've got a question. What was the Saints defensive play call? Because he was in like single coverage. Like, what did you think was going to happen?
Yeah, there's
You could have
only
picked
one
6 that
outcome.
thing.
There's
Yeah.
only one outcome here.
Yeah.
And you're down
they
by-
weren't
You
gonna-
could have
they
seen that
weren't gonna
coming,
chuck it
been in
deep
cover
either.
2 and pick 6 that thing. And then like make a game out
Yeah,
of this.
just
If you
trap
really
it.
wanted to, Saints.
He's not going deep. Just trap it.
Like it's going to be an out. It's an out or a slant. Run cover 2. Like,
And at
what
the
are you
time,
doing, man?
and the Falcons game not decided at the time, right? The Falcons
Right,
game
yeah.
overtime.
Yeah.
You're 8 points down. You pick 6 it. You're in like some real gold territory.
You get that play on like NFL top 10 segments for decades of like the worst screw ups of all time
Yeah.
because they could have knelt.
Yeah.
Crazy. Other around the league, people were ripping on week 18. Nobody's playing. Why do people? This is worse than preseason. I loved it. I loved the battle
It was so funny.
for the top pick, and I loved that backup quarterbacks were like legitimately
You see
deciding.
Carson Wentz flail
playoff
around
fates.
out there? It was outstanding.
I don't know. I think Andy Reid
Colts Jags was
said,
kind of a banger too.
I'd rather have
that
the
was a legitimately
Broncos.
good game.
I'd rather have the Broncos in than the Bengals. Bengals, winners of their last 5 games in a row, can't sneak in because the Broncos.
Bengals
well,
fans
don't go 4-8.
crashing out
Yeah,
because
you
the
can't go
Chiefs
4-8.
did what's best for the Chiefs was so funny to me.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
hey man, win a couple more games and don't let like the
Right.
Bo Nix Broncos cuck you like that.
Right.
That's crazy. That's
Right.
completely on you.
Tucked by Bo Nix.
Bo Nix being this good, probably one of the most unexpected parts.
Yeah, I'm
of this.
shocked.
yeah.
I'm I called Brock Purdy a fraud, and I stopped right before he revealed it. I'm not going to stop with Bo Nix. This guy's a fraud forever.
Yeah.
Cortland
Screen
Sutton
merchant.
Quick
game
Cortland
merchant
Sutton.
in college, quick game merchant in the pros. Sean Payton's doing what he knows his quarterback can do.
Yep.
Congrats, Bo. You can count the box.
Yep.
Another tease for Thursday. This is called the horizontal tease. We will reveal the end of season results for the Russell Wilson versus Sam Darnold stat lines that we agreed upon. We'll have that for you.
I'm pretty confident about that one.
Thursday's Minnesota football party. Oh, I know. It's
what
going
were
to be
the
a
stakes on
bloodbath.
that? Does Sam have to join me for a little bit on the?
No, there were no stakes.
Does Sam have to give me a round?
Well, that was
debated
real
stakes,
money,
and then
right?
we had never come to any sort of agreement on stakes, and then that's just what happens. But I'll hold it over Sam's head forever, so that's good enough for me.
All right.
Minnesota Football Party returns with the bonus show on Wednesday. We're back, this crew, on Thursday. And then again on Monday, we'll have a game day preview edition before the Monday Night Playoff game. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening on the Locked On Vikings podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts. We appreciate it. Vikings headed to the playoffs on a sour note. Let's talk to you soon.